Welcome to Equal Time with Martha Burke. April is now celebrated every year as Fair Housing Month. Where did you grow up? In a small town, suburb, on a farm, an apartment in a big city, or a little bit of all of these? And who did you grow up with? If you were born after 1968, chances are you had a mixed group of neighbors, fellow students, or friends. White, black, Hispanic, Asian, Native American, and others. But it wasn't always so. For oldsters like me born in the 1940s, 50s, or early 60s, it was legal to deny folks housing based on skin color or heritage. And it was the norm, often reinforced by violence. Whites in the best areas, and everybody else somewhere else, just as long as they weren't seen or heard very often. The somewhere elses were further out of town, with poor streets and public services, run-down schools, and few or no medical facilities. Enter two guys, one white, one black, who changed all that. It was 1968, and their names were Martin Luther King Jr. and Lyndon Johnson. King had been advocating for fair housing legislation for years, meaning outlawing the practice of barring minorities from white neighborhoods, which was perfectly legal and almost universally practiced. On April 4, 1968, King was assassinated. Riots gripped the nation's cities, including Washington. As the capital city smoldered, President Johnson urged Congress to respond by passing the Fair Housing Act as a tribute to King. Congress obliged, and the President quickly signed the bill. It barred discrimination in the sale, rental, and financing of housing on the basis of race, color, religion, or national origin. It was a giant leap, even though some important groups were still left out. 6 years later, in 1974, sex was added to the list of protected classes, but it took 20 years until 1988 to add people with physical or mental disabilities and families with kids to the list of folks covered by the law. If you live in a diverse neighborhood or multiracial city, be glad. It's all due to the giant legacies left by Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. and President Lyndon Johnson way back in 1968. Thanks for listening to Equal Time. I'm Martha Burke.